You ever have a job that sticks with you, not because of what you earned, but because of what you saw? Some people talk about bad customers or weird coworkers, but every now and then, someone meets the kind of person that shouldn't exist. Tonight's story is one of those encounters. A grocery store employee thought he'd seen it all until one customer walked in asking for ketchup. What happened next made him quit his job and question what it really means to be human. This is the Ketchup Man. I never thought a simple job at a grocery store could leave me terrified of people. But that's what happened. It's been months since I quit. And even now, I can't walk through a supermarket without feeling my stomach twist. Because I keep expecting to hear that voice again. The one that still echoes in my head, polite, cheerful, and completely wrong. It started on a day like any other. I was halfway through my shift, zoning out as I stocked shelves in the back corner of the store. It was quiet, the kind of sterile quiet that hums under the fluorescent lights. You could hear the dull buzz of the air vents, the distant beeps of checkout scanners, the wheels of shopping carts squeaking down the aisles. I'd gotten used to the monotony. You have to when every day feels exactly the same. I worked alone most of the time. That afternoon, I was restocking soup cans, the boring kind of job where your hands move automatically while your mind drifts off somewhere else. Behind me was the general merchandise section, toys, kitchenware, and the leftover holiday junk we hadn't sold. I remember the smell of cardboard and metal shelves. That smell's burned into me now, because that's where I first met him. He approached from behind without me noticing. I only realized someone was there when a voice said, "Hey buddy, where's the ketchup?" I turned and saw this tall guy standing a few feet away. He had to be close to 7 feet, not bulky, just unnaturally tall. Clean-shaven, buzz-cut hair, square jaw. He looked like the kind of man who probably coached Little League. There was something easygoing in his smile, like the kind of person who cracks dad jokes and means no harm. I pointed down the aisle and said, "Aisle 15, near the condiments." He winked, gave me a thumbs up, and said, "Thanks, buddy. You're a lifesaver." Then he turned and walked off. I went back to my work. Didn't think anything of it. A few minutes later, I reached for another box, and when I straightened up, he was there again, standing closer this time, looking down at me with this strange, almost sheepish smile. "Where's the ketchup, buddy?" Same words, same tone, same wink, same thumbs up at the ready. For a second, I thought he was joking. Maybe he'd forgotten where it was. Maybe he was one of those guys who thought repeating things was funny. I forced a laugh and pointed again. "Still aisle 15?" I said. He blinked, then nodded. "Thanks, buddy. You're a lifesaver." And he walked away. Something about it didn't sit right. The exactness of it. The way he repeated every word perfectly, down to the same pause between thanks and buddy. But I shrugged it off. People are weird sometimes. When I finished that section, I moved to the other end of the aisle to grab more boxes, and I froze. He was there again. Same clothes, same forced grin, just standing hands at his sides, staring down the aisle as if waiting for me to notice. My throat went dry. I tried to sound casual. Still looking for the ketchup?" He smiled wider. "Where's the ketchup, buddy?" It wasn't just repetition anymore. He said it, like he'd never spoken before in his life, like the words were sounds he was imitating, not meaning. I hesitated. "Aisle 15, I muttered again. He didn't move, just kept looking at me like I'd said something in a language he couldn't understand. so I gestured for him to follow me. Come on, I'll show you. He trailed behind me, slow, hesitant steps, like he was copying how people walk. When we reached the ketchup shelf, I stopped and pointed. Here you go. Right here. He stepped up beside me, leaned forward, and stared at the bottles like they were something alien. Then his pupils shrank, and his face lit up with relief. He smiled. Thanks, buddy. You're a lifesaver. And he gave the same thumbs up. I managed a weak laugh, but something deep inside me twisted. He turned back towards the aisle and walked away stiffly, like his joints didn't fit right. I tried to shake it off. Maybe he was on something. Maybe just weird. But the way he spoke, it was too exact, too mechanical. Not long after, my manager, Greg, came by, coughing like usual. Guy smoked so much, his voice was just gravel and air. He grumbled something about a pallet I needed to move, then disappeared again. I got the pallet jack and started hauling one of the big toilet paper loads through the double doors that led to the back. I remember the sound those plastic flaps made as I pushed through, and then laughter. Behind me, it was Greg's laugh, except Greg wasn't there. I turned and the ketchup guy was standing a few feet away. Same clothes, same smile. But now he was laughing, and it was Greg's laugh. He bent forward slightly, his tall frame shrinking, as if trying to match Greg's height. Bring a pallet out by general merchandise, he said, using Greg's raspy, broken voice. My chest tightened. I forced a smile. Maybe Greg was playing a prank. Maybe this guy was his friend. Good one, I said weakly and walked off. But he repeated its same words, same rasp. Bring a pallet out by general merchandise. And I knew then it wasn't a joke. Not a good one anyway. I kept working, trying to ignore the tremor in my hands. But my mind was spinning. He wasn't mocking Greg. He was copying him perfectly. A while later, a different customer came by, young guy, with glasses, British accent, slight limp. Excuse me, he said. Could you tell me where the washroom is? Just around the corner past general merchandise, I told him. He thanked me and hurried off, limping heavily with his right leg. A minute later, I heard the same uneven footsteps approaching again. I looked up and my stomach dropped. It was the Ketchup Man. He stopped in front of me, posture tilted like he was mimicking the limp. Excuse me, he said in a perfect British accent. Where's the washroom? I just stared at him. He looked confused, almost scared when I didn't answer. Sir, I said quietly, what are you doing? His eyes darted around, like he didn't understand the question. Then he repeated himself. Same accent, same limp. Excuse me, where's the washroom? He said it slower, his lip trembling. It was like watching a puppet that didn't know who was pulling the strings. I pointed toward the corner again. Over there. He nodded too quickly, like a child pretending to understand, and shuffled away. I watched him go, his right leg dragging just like the British guys had. Before he turned the corner, he looked back at me. Our eyes met for half a second, and there was something in his face, not menace, not anger, just sheer confusion, like he didn't know why he was doing any of this. I tried to get back to work, but I couldn't focus. My heartbeat sounded too loud. Then an elderly woman came up beside me holding her cart. Good day, young man, she said kindly. Would you know where I can find the butter? Her timing startled me. I cleared my throat. Aisle 17, ma'am. She smiled and nodded. Thank you, dear. As she turned to leave, she added, and the cake mix. I looked past her toward the corner, where the Ketchup Man had gone, and froze. Two eyes were peering around the shelf. His eyes. And his lips were moving, perfectly in sync with the old woman's words. The cake mix. Do you know where it is? My voice caught in my throat. Aisle 12. I said, not even sure why. She thanked me and walked away none the wiser. The man stayed frozen, half hidden, mouthing her last words again. Thank you, dear. When she was gone, he stepped out, bent forward, his neck twitching, body trembling, and in her voice, exactly her voice, he said, "Good day, young man." I stumbled back. He didn't just sound like her, he was her. Every tone, every tremor. He looked terrified, his eyes wide, glistening with tears, his lips quivering as though he was fighting against something. Then he whispered again, "Would you know where I can find the butter?" And it wasn't imitation anymore. It was her voice, word for word, sound for sound, coming out of his mouth. My mind refused to accept it. People can't do that. Not perfectly. Not like that. Before I could move, a voice came over the store intercom. Porter to aisle 4 for a wet cleanup. The Ketchup Man's eyes widened. His mouth dropped open. And he repeated it exactly. But not like a human voice. It sounded like a recording. The same tone, the same mechanical static. As if the announcement was playing through his throat. Then he looked at me. Wide-eyed, smiling, tears running down his face. I shouted at him, "What the hell are you doing?" He flinched, like I'd hit him, backing away with his hands raised. His lips trembled as he cried, and between sobs, he switched voices like a broken radio. "Excuse me, where's the washroom? Where's the ketchup, buddy?" "Thanks, buddy. You're a lifesaver. Good day, young man." Each phrase came out in a different voice, male, female, old, young. And then Greg's voice cut in behind me. "What the hell's going on here?" For a split second, I thought it was the man again, but it really was Greg this time. He looked past me at the Ketchup Man, who was huddled against a shelf, shaking violently. Greg frowned and took a few steps forward. "Hey, you need to calm down, sir." The man whimpered, repeating softly, "You need to calm down, sir." Greg scowled. "Listen, buddy, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to leave right now." The man shook his head, whispering, "Leave right now. Leave right now." Then he bumped against the air conditioner unit behind him, and everything changed. His eyes went wide. He stood bolt upright, every muscle in his body locked. And then he screamed. It wasn't one scream. It was hundreds. Men, women, children, all shrieking through one throat. It didn't sound human. It didn't even sound alive. It was like every voice he'd stolen came bursting out at once. Greg stumbled back. I couldn't move. The man fell to his knees, clutching his face, sobbing violently. But even as he cried, he kept speaking fragments of those voices, mixing and looping. "Where's the ketchup, buddy? Bring a pallet out by general merchandise." "Would you know where I can find the butter?" Greg's laugh, my own voice, the intercom's static, all tangled into one. And then he lifted one trembling hand, formed a thumbs up, still crying, still smiling. He laughed again in Greg's voice and began clawing at his throat until blood streaked down his chin. Then he collapsed onto the floor, curled up, and went rigid. For a long moment, there was silence. Then he started humming, a low mechanical hum, the same pitch as the air conditioner beside him. It was flawless. Not a sound made by human lungs, but by something that had learned what sound was supposed to be. He stayed like that for 30 seconds, staring at the ceiling, body twitching, lips trembling. Then his eyes rolled toward me, and he spoke, in my voice, exactly my voice. please." He gasped once, then bolted upright and ran, limping, staggering, shoulders hunched. He ran past Greg, past the aisles, and out through the doors into the night. I just stood there. I didn't chase him. I didn't say a word. Even when Greg called security, I couldn't explain what I'd seen. I told them a man had a breakdown, that he'd run off. They laughed about it later, but I couldn't laugh. I quit that night. I haven't worked another retail job since. I order groceries online now. If I ever have to go inside a store, I keep my head down and don't talk to anyone. Because sometimes, when someone nearby asks me a question, something simple like, "Do you know where the ketchup is?" for just a split second, I hear my own voice answering back. If you ever work late at night, stocking shelves, under flickering lights, and a stranger asks you something simple like where the ketchup is, maybe don't answer, because sometimes the thing asking isn't looking for ketchup. It's looking for you. Thank you for listening to NightLore. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share it with someone who loves the dark side of storytelling. Sleep well, if you can.